Oh, yeah. We're making progress. Oh, yeah. And can we do it in the group? Go live. Is it going to work? Drum roll. No. Boop. Okay, well, we're live now in this way. So this is good. This will work. This is great. So, hello. Thank you for bearing with me on this beautifully awkward moment in all my human glory. Today is our episode of Monday Musings, bringing a quote from my weekly planner to contemplate ways that we can use the quote to do some inner reflection on our journeys of reclaiming our sovereignty. This week's quote is by Walter Bagot. Probably should have practiced how to say his name ahead of time, but I didn't think that far in advance. But the quote says, "A great pleasure in life is doing what people say you cannot do." Ooh, this quote really just had me going in so many different directions. Where I landed on where to start was with the word defiance. This quote makes me think of defiance. And as with anything in a world of polarity, hot, cold, up, down, left, right, heads or tails, all words have polarity, a positive or a negative, or just two sides to one word. So, defiance, are you using your human innate inner defiance in a way that is constructive or destructive? That is the inner reflective question. So, using personal stories, if you are open to hearing, as with all people, I have examples of how my innate defiance has reared its head in both constructive ways as well as destructive ways. I'll start with the destructive example. When I was a teenager in college, a loved one said to me, okay, backstory. Like most college kids, I liked to drink and party. It was fun. That's what we did. Normal at that time of life. My father had a history of alcohol abuse, and so this loved one experienced him in the throes of that torment, of that addiction. So when they said to me, "You better watch your drinking or you will end up just like your father," well, my inner defiant, rebellious teenager, I heard it. I can still hear it plain, the voice of that inner teenager, plain as day in my head. And it said, "Oh, yeah, watch this." Ooh. And the relationship that I had with alcohol, which was fairly well contained, went from well contained to just out of control. Somehow I managed to graduate college and do okay. But when I left the institution of school, having been in school from, like most people, starting at kindergarten, and I went all the way through just a bachelor's degree, I didn't have the structure of somebody telling me this is what you need to do in your days, morning, noon, night. This is what your routine looks like. This is what you should be working on. Like, I didn't have an external authority giving me that structure. And excuse me as I turn off my 11:11 alarm and we send good vibes and loving energy to the world. Yes. So when I lost that structure in my life, I fell apart, and the rebellious teenager inside of me went even further off the chain. Somehow I managed to get, well, I took the first job opportunity given to me out of college because I had no idea what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be. It's funny. I I double majored in business and accounting, and the first thing I thought to myself upon graduation was, "Oh my God, I never want to work in accounting in my entire life," which is hilarious because I had literally just spent 4 years getting that degree. I did eventually work in accounting for 10 years, but that's not the point of this post. Okay. Yes. So that is an example of receiving pleasure by doing something somebody told me not to do, but in a destructive way. Eventually, after many false starts and stops and starts and stops, I did overcome the addiction to alcohol myself. And if you have followed me for any time, you may have noticed my post back in April of this year that I now have 4 years of sobriety. Yay! Celebrating the wins. And that's my example of destructive defiance. So let's talk about constructive defiance for a bit. One in which, an example in which defiance can actually help you achieve a positive outcome. Say you have a goal that you're working on in your life that feels a bit outside of your comfort zone, and you unconsciously make the mistake of sharing this goal with someone who either doesn't have your best interest in heart or lovingly tries to minimize your idea or shoot it down because they feel like in some way they're protecting you from what might be failure. And then your inner defiant says, "Oh, yeah, watch this." And so, because they told you that you cannot achieve the thing you want to achieve, your defiant nature did that or more. So, I will use being an entrepreneur as an example of that. So many well-meaning people have gone out of their way to say, "Oh, you can't do that. Do you know how hard it is? The economy is terrible. You have a young child. It's irresponsible." Well, all of these opinions are opinions, and it's people's way of lovingly trying to live in a way that they're more comfortable in living, but not in a way that I am comfortable in living. And so personally, I have learned to use my discernment and realize that what they're saying is a projection of their own inner reality, which does not have to be mine. And again, most times these things are said in an unconscious way, usually with love, but the point is, know in your heart what rings as valid for you and what does not. Take what's yours and release the rest. So I will say, on this journey of overcoming that which no longer serves, there are moments when on the inner plane, you have this inner critic that likes to criticize you or pass judgments on what you're doing or trying to do, because it's a learned behavior from the past. We get criticized as kids, and then we realize that if we criticize ourselves, we'll be accepted by society. And so what started as external criticism becomes internal criticism. No judgment there. It happens to almost everybody, unless you were one of the lucky few who grew up in a healthy household, but that's not the standard these days. Or was it ever? Who knows? Probably not ever. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. And so where am I going with this? Great question. I lost my train of thought. And it was a good one. Oh, yes, releasing that which doesn't serve us in the inner critic. Okay. And sometimes the inner critic likes to partner up with that rebellious teenager, and they get in this shouting match of trying to bring my higher vision down. And it's a learned behavior of my ego trying to keep me small and in my comfort zone because my ego knows that I have survived certain events or situations before. So it tries to keep me stuck and small in what is familiar because I've survived that before. Whereas what I am birthing or creating or doing with my life now is uncharted territory in this life expression. So Nikki's ego personality and the mental sides, those mental planes, like to get in the shouting match of trying to bring my spirit down because they say, oh, you can't do that, or it's too much. And then all the lists of all the things that aren't really true come up as a way of layers of me trying to protect me from the unknown. So a big part of our growth also requires stepping into the unknown. And when we do that, we walk that road less traveled. Prepare yourself because there will be those moments of self-doubt, inner criticism, rebellious teenager who just doesn't want to do the thing that needs to be done to make your dream a success. These moments are normal and they happen even on a good day, multiple times in a single day. So, woo, be prepared. It's a wild ride. It's a wild ride, but one that we signed up for. So, bringing it back to the beginning, remembering the quote, a great pleasure in life is doing what people say you cannot do. And so when you are activating or you feel your defiant nature has been activated, ask yourself, is this defiance coming from a place of constructive behavior or destructive behavior? Or constructive programs or destructive programs, or constructive stories or destructive stories? Like what is the vibration? What's the source? What's the energetic feeling of the underlying behavior? Is what I am about to do for my highest good, or is it the other way? And do what you can to lean towards what is for your highest, towards which for your what is for your highest good. And please excuse my creaky chair. And let's lean away from that which isn't for our highest good. And in those moments where the inner critic and the rebellious teenager or rebellious young adult or rebellious whoever, in those moments when they win, and you behave in a way that you know is not for your highest good, let's lean into some grace and forgiveness because we're doing things that are uncomfortable and uncommon, and it is a learning curve. There is a learning curve. It's like going to the gym and working out a muscle group that you've never worked out before. You're not going to be good at first, nor should you expect yourself to go out and be a bodybuilder who does shows on stage. You're just starting your journey. So ease and grace is very important. Another metaphor is that of the child learning how to walk. When a child is learning how to walk, they are going to fall more times than anybody can count. But could you imagine if the child fell for the first time and said, you know what, that's it, I'm done. I'm not even going to try to walk anymore. I'm just going to crawl for the rest of my life. I'm just here as a floor being, and that's that, and I'm done. Nope, that's not what happens. The kids just keep getting up again and again until they figure it out. So maybe a good practice can be when the inner critic or inner rebellious nature are coming up. When they're coming up, imagine yourself as that toddler, that baby who's learning to go from crawling to walking. Is there a couch? Is there a metaphorical couch nearby that you can lean on to help you learn? A couch in this metaphor would be maybe a coach or a spiritual advisor, an energy worker or a practitioner or therapist or medical doctor, somebody you can lean on in this process of learning to go past your comfort zone. That's why professionals like us are around. Yes. Kids have to learn how to ask. Kids have to ask for help when they're learning new stuff all the time. Whether it's using scissors or tying shoes or zipping a zipper or buttoning pants. Could you imagine if kids never asked for help? Well, actually, I'm thinking there are many times when kids don't ask for help, and that's what creates the tantrums. So when you find yourself having a tantrum, do your best to ask for help in as peaceful of a way as possible. And if you don't feel confident asking for help from another human being, then lean into your own spiritual nature. Whatever relationship you have with the creator being, however you call them, him, her, it, creator of all that is, God, source, mother God, father God, great spirit, Buddha, Allah, any word suffices, or just the universe. Lean in to the help that is there. So, thank you for listening. That is our session for Monday Musings. I hope you found it amusing as well as insightful. A great pleasure in life is doing what most people say you cannot do. I'm going to finish this live in saying that when you actually do achieve the thing that was constructive for your life that people said you couldn't do, man, do what you can to celebrate that. Celebrate your wins. And in fact, don't wait until you reach the destination. And I say that in quotes because there really is no such thing as a final destination. There's just the next growth. That's why it's so important for us to celebrate every increment of win along the way. Every single little win deserves celebration. Did you get up and brush your teeth today? Celebrate. Do a happy dance while you're brushing your teeth. Hey, I'm awake. I'm brushing. Let's go. Let's celebrate and embrace our own childlike nature along the way. Thank you very much for listening. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you on the interwebs. Mwah!